I'm Jansen,
I'm Sky.
and this is the weekly pop up podcast where we discuss all things pop culture. And this week, we are just going to kind of take a step back, slow it down a little bit. Not a huge, over encompassing topic, but we're just going to talk about one movie because we all get to see movies from the comfort of our own homes, movies that were going to be in theaters. And this week, we're going to talk about The Little Things with Denzel, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. And it was really obviously hyped up with those three names. We've had some great teasers and trailers for it, and we're going to discuss if they lived up to the hype. To help us discuss that, we have a good, dear friend of mine joining us today, Hunter Bren.
Hey
Bring him in.
yo, how's it going?
Bring him in.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm not bad. Just living the dream.
Hey, typical response right there. Sky, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. Sean is supposed to be joining us at some point throughout this. I sure hope he does because I miss him.
He has
But
like a kid, right?
he has a child he's got to take care of who's saying things to delay bedtime, like I've got to water the cat, things like that. Anything to just not go to bed.
I feel like I
But
almost need a kid just so I can be like, I can't do it because I have a kid. But then a
you
big part of me says, I don't want kids.
you
So
can
it's
get
like,
out of so much when you
it's a
have a
tug of
kid.
war.
But you
Like
can also just say you have COVID if you want to get out of stuff too.
That's true, but then I jinx myself and then I actually get it.
you don't want to get it, but don't jinx yourself and get a kid if you don't want a kid either. I mean,
Yeah, that's
No.
an 8. So COVID's like a 2-week thing. A kid is a whole 18 years.
so we are going to talk about The Little Things. Came on HBO Max same day as the theaters, which again, super great feature. I know that Sky, especially a few of us though, were a little skeptical because it is a January release, but we went back and forth on whether that matters right now
Yeah, because
because
I
of
want to be
all the weird
clear.
stuff.
I want to be clear. I had no problem with it being released in January. No
Yes,
problem.
yes, but we weren't sure prior to the release, prior to watching it, if like there was a reason because One Night in Miami came out in January, I believe. I think it was originally Christmas, but I didn't think it came out in Christmas. Correct me
It,
if I'm wrong,
it
Hunter.
went on Amazon Prime, I think, the same week as The Little Things.
Okay,
So you can
so
stream it. I think it was released somewhere on Christmas. But it was put on Amazon Prime the same day or
I
around
think
the
it might
same
have been
time.
a little bit. It was around the same time, but that's also January release, and that's a darling. Like that's a wonderful movie, both like audience reception and critical reception. The reason we're prefacing this is because The Little Things didn't hold up as well as One Night in Miami, and so we weren't sure how streaming did affect kind of releases of movies since this is in theaters but also online at the same time. It seems they did it strategically. And as we know, January, Sky, is normally a theatrical kind of just here's what's left over.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of you don't see a lot of blockbusters, right? You don't get those. You get those a little bit later on when people are actually wanting to go out. So you might get a little bit more art house stuff in the early months.
Hunter, what were your expectations going in here?
I love Mr. Robot, so I would in Bohemian Rhapsody. So I bought a lot of stock in Rami Malek. So I
Did
really
you go
liked
on
him.
Reddit? Did you go on Reddit first to
No,
make
I
sure that
did.
you could buy the stock?
I didn't. I
Wall Street
didn't,
bets,
unfortunately. I
Reddit
wish.
slash Wall Street bets.
Well, I don't know. After watching this one, I might sell a little bit of stock. uh, but I don't know. I went in with high expectations because I like the Equalizer, and from the commercials, I was kind of thinking Denzel was going to kind of play the same ish role, so like kind of a gritty detective.
Yeah.
And then Jared Leto is either really hit or miss. Like Dallas Buyers Club, Jared Leto is spot on, but then you have the Joker Jared Leto, and that's terrible. So I mean, I went in with like maybe a 70%, like looking forward to it.
I think for me, when you have those three names, it gives the highest expectations. Like I go in one not thinking they're signing on to something that isn't going to be pretty good at least. And then when all three of them signed on, it's like, well, we must have a masterpiece here. Like these are three guys who have been around the block. They've all done some incredible projects. Like you said, some, of course they have their misses, but overall, I mean, you see the awards from these three and you're thinking, okay, we've got a top-notch kind of crime thriller that we're looking at. And then I watched, and let me be clear, not the worst movie I've ever watched. Like I thought it was decently enjoyable. I would watch it again, but it nowhere near lived up to my expectations. Because I'm thinking at least an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I'm thinking that going in. And honestly, it was a 6 out of 10, which for me is like an okay Saturday night movie. Like, okay, we can flip it on. That's usually what a 6 out of 10 is for me. And I think if we had had lesser names, lesser known actors, I probably would have given a 7 out of 10. But just knowing these three guys, I just expected more.
See, I think I would. I don't know if I'd rewatch it again. I'd rewatch the first hour again,
You
but
know,
I
like the
don't
back
think.
half.
No, I had a really hard time with the ending of the movie. I thought it was going so well, and then it just kind of took a turn, and I was like, I don't know. It seemed very anticlimactic, in my opinion.
Sky would tell us about the end of the movie, but why don't you go ahead and tell us, Sky?
Yeah, so I watched 30 minutes of it and then I turned it off. But
Such a Sky thing to do.
but I mean, I was telling Jansen, I was telling Sean that I just was not excited for this movie. I didn't think that it looked good from the trailers. It just it didn't get to me. And when I was watching it, I realized why. Uh, it just felt dated. It felt very, very dated. So then I did some research real fast. I paused it and I did some research, and turns out that this script was 30 years old. Now I'm sure that they did some updates, right? But they're still working off of a 30-year-old script. And when you have shows like True Detective that do thrillers so well, you have to kind of beat that, and they didn't. And I could tell that 30 minutes in that this was just not gonna, it wasn't gonna get there. So yeah, that was kind of my big problem with it. And you know, I enjoyed Rami Malek's performance in Rhapsody. I hated the
Mhm.
movie. I hated Rhapsody, but
Yeah, terrible
his
movie, but
his
great
performance was
performance.
great. But what he did in that movie, just from what I saw in the 30 minutes, I don't know if it was the director telling him to kind of act the way that he was acting, or if that was just a personal call. I don't know. Um, but he, yeah, like you said, I think I would, if I had stock in Rami Malek, I would probably dump it out really quickly. Didn't even get to Jared Leto, but again, like you said, he's hit or miss, and he's been playing the same character for a while now. you know. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, so he kind of looks like the same character that he played in Blade Runner 2049.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, and then you have Suicide Squad, which we don't talk about it. Uh, yeah, so I mean, it just and with Denzel, I love The Equalizer, love Book of Eli. I think that he's still terrific at 66, but that movie did him no favors.
I thought the performances were very good. I do agree with that. Rami had a weird vibe, but I haven't seen enough Rami to where I just kind of was like, that's just him. Like he just seems like a weird dude. Like I thought his tone was just in a different movie. Like I thought he was like he's trying to play like this cool cop, but he's also not embodying that. Like I feel like the character he's supposed to be playing is almost like this hot shot, super confident, I get all the bad guys.
Fresh out of
And
college.
yeah, and I got like, well, I don't know what I'm trying to do here. And like I don't know, he just seemed more reserved than he should have been. Leto was absolutely great, I thought. Like I was creeped out every time he was on stage. I mean on screen, which is why he actually garnered some nominations for his performance. He got Best Supporting Actor nominations at the Golden Globes and the Screen Actors Guild Awards. So racking them up, which I thought he was the best part. I thought Denzel did great with what he was given. I don't think he was given a ton. I agree with Hunter. I mean, I was pretty like in on the movie. Like while I'm watching, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of trying to see where this is going. I agree. Not my favorite ending. One, kind of saw it coming, right? Like I felt like that's what we were trying to lead to. There were one of two options, and once we were getting kind of jerked around for the last 20 minutes, I figured, well, this is something has to happen, and that kind of seemed like the conclusion that was going to happen. Um, I know a lot of people online are very frustrated because, and spoiler alert here, we are discussing a movie, so we're about to spoil some things. You never find out who the killer is, which we just watched
Two
hour
and
and
a
a
half
half,
hours.
hour,
No, it was 2 hours.
yeah, 2 hours of like running around, and we never find out. Which sometimes, if done right, if I had a couple options, and then you leave the mystery to me to kind of figure out, okay, but I mean, I have no idea who did it. Like, I don't even have a name or
Yeah,
anything.
they
So
had
that
no
was the frustrating
suspects
part.
in their investigation. That was the thing that bugged me, was that it was like they picked Jared Leto's character and we're just like, this is our main suspect. We're not going to focus on anything else. So by the end of the movie, you have no idea who it could be, or there's no like like you couldn't like use context clues to be like,
Mhm.
oh, it was definitely the guy in the blue shirt. It was either going to be Jared Leto or not, and I think
Even
they
if they
really
had like two or three people, like, hey, the person A, person B, and person C could have done it, and then somehow the movie ends in a satisfying way where it's still up in the air. It's kind of a mystery, but at least, like you said, we can draw our own conclusions, and that leaves you thinking about it after the movie. Like, I wonder how that went. With this, there's no reason to think about it after the movie because they have no leads, I have no leads, so it's over.
Yeah, one of the things I texted Jansen like right after I finished the movie is I wish they would have left Jared Leto out of the marketing. I wish that would have been a reveal in the movie, as that like, oh wait, wow, like Jared Leto's, or actually like, I don't know if he put on weight or if he was wearing some kind of like fat suit or something,
He
but
did, yeah, no, he did.
he doesn't look like Jared Leto in the movie.
He
Like
doesn't.
if I didn't know it was Jared Leto, I would have had to be like, it would have been like a, oh, who's that? Like he looks so familiar. Let me IMDb this real quick. I really wish they would have left that as a surprise. Because I mean, from the time I started the movie, it was like, okay, where's Jared Leto? Where's he
I'm
at? Where's
30
he at?
minutes
Where's he
in, and
at?
I was like, "Where's Jared Leto?" But
Yeah.
he said he wore prosthetics. He said they changed his eye color because he's got blue eyes. He has brown eyes in this. He wore like a fake nose, so he did a lot of stuff for the role. But one of the biggest critiques, and I guess I don't know if it's a critique, but it's a comparison, is to Seven, the classic movie that I watched for the first time this week. But that's one of the big comparisons. And Hunter, I feel like to your point, if they had like left the bad guy as a reveal without ever telling you who it was, it would have just been another direct like rip off of Seven.
That is true. That is true. I totally forgot about the reveal, and like I knew that he was in the movie, but I totally forgot that was a reveal for Seven. Like that wasn't in any of the marketing.
And his name's
Yes,
not
they would
even
have
in
been a
like the
straight up.
title credits.
No, he didn't. He didn't want any credit for the movie, so it would be completely hidden.
So you would have just had another comparison, which after watching Seven, I see exactly why they compared the two. And it does pale in comparison.
It's tough. It's tough to create like a good thriller, I think, because there's been so many good ones. I talked about Mr. Brooks in a previous podcast, and
Such a great movie.
for me, like if we're talking about a thriller movie, like that's probably the bar for me. And then you have the shows like True Detective, and it's just it's a high bar. It's a really high bar because I mean you got to have the mystery and you got to have the fulfillment, and the intrigue. And if you don't meet those, you don't really have a good film. So I mean, I guess you have a good film, but you might not have a great film.
Exactly. I would say like I think some people will come out saying I really liked the movie. I think some people will come out saying I really didn't like the movie, and I think that's kind of the reception that it should get. Um, if you're not watching a ton of, if you aren't watching True Detective or you aren't watching a lot of thrillers, again, it does enough to keep you around, except for Sky, obviously. But like it did enough to keep me around and at least wondering, okay, what's going on? What's up with Denzel? Like it left enough of those questions for the middle and the end of the movie, but I just didn't think it capitalized on them enough. Like even Denzel's revelation of like he shot the girl and that's why he had to leave. It didn't really impact me because I thought it was so chopped up throughout the movie.
Mhm.
I was just kind of confused on what was going on.
Yeah, I had the same thing where when they finally showed the like part where he shoots the girl, I was like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I can follow it, but it's very choppy, and it took me a second to be like, so he didn't have a heart attack. That's why everyone hates him. So there was definitely some like story stuff that I think could have done better, or like at least put it a little bit more in your face.
And then my other thing was, so they had technically they did have another suspect right at the start, and then he killed himself. But Denzel knew him from the past, maybe when he was there the first time, because that guy had done something. Like that was a part that they spent like 15 minutes on, and I was never 100% clear on what we were getting at there.
Yeah, they were just like, he killed himself. Cool. Let's go find
Let's
Jared
find
Leto.
Jared Leto.
I think
So
also
yeah, go ahead.
the cops in this movie do really dumb things. Like the whole part where like Denzel goes into his house, and then the whole ending of the movie where Rami Malek is just like, I'm gonna go with this psycho person instead of
Well,
waiting a few more seconds to see what my partner was gonna do. I definitely think there was a lot more dumb things that just wasn't written smart to a point where it's like actually believable.
I agree. I definitely agree. Just because, yeah, I mean, what are we doing? We're going with this guy. You can't just at least, hey, like stall him a minute so Denzel can get right behind you and not be 20 minutes behind. Also, how does Denzel know where they're going? I mean, he was a good like 4 or 5 minutes behind them. And yet
Yeah.
he knew exactly which interstates and which exits to get off of. That was quite wild. Because I
Yeah.
mean, we went to the middle of nowhere and he made it there.
Yeah, and Remy Malik is the one with the gun. Like you have to kind of remember that at the end of the movie, where it's like Remy Malik is the one who draws the gun on Jared Leto and then volunteers to go with him instead of like being like, no, I'm the one with the gun. Let me dictate what's going to happen here.
Well, my wife asked that question and she was like, why is he digging these holes? And to their credit, they did write a decent thing. Jared Leto was saying, you can't actually shoot me because like then you're gonna have to like figure out how to get rid of my body and all this other stuff, which is a compelling argument. Like, okay, you're right, I can't just shoot you. But that yeah, I just the believability that you're just gonna go with him, this obviously psychotic man, is not there. And the other thing that was frustrating is I thought they had some decent pieces. Like there were parts where I was like, if done really right, this could have been really well done. Like this could have been very good because like even the very end when he sends him the brooch, the red beret or whatever, that's a cool piece. Like I like that they did that. And again, if done better, that could be a very effective. Because even watching it, I was like, well, first of all, I knew I was like, he sent him that, like
Yeah,
that he
it's
didn't
super
find that.
predictable.
It is super predictable. So like we should have done that a little bit better. And the reveal that he had bought it wasn't nearly as effective because I was like, I said he definitely bought that. Even if you didn't come out and show me, that was my thought. But if done the right way, I thought it could have been a pretty cool reveal. I feel like this was just a movie of like missed opportunities. And maybe like Sky said, it's because it was 30 years too late. Like if this had come out before Seven, maybe Seven would have been compared to this. I mean, you
Mm,
just never know the possibilities.
Seven is such a better written movie, in my opinion. like it's believable. Like the way the detectives act in Seven is a lot more realistic than the way a cop would act in The Little Things.
Agreed. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not comparing the two, but I'm just saying, if you had gotten it done the first time 30 years ago, you'd probably be having a much different conversation because you wouldn't have at least a plethora of things to compare it to.
That is true.
It's true.
They had the all-time name drop of the movie title, though. I will say the part where Denzel's like in the truck and he just looks back and he goes, "It's the little things."
He only said it like 6 times. So
Anytime they do that, I want to pull my hair out.
he said it several times. It's the little things, Jimmy. It's the little things.
Yeah.
There's
And
a,
again, he wrapped it up with that. Could have been all right. Like it was a thread he used the whole time. If done better, it could have been pretty good. Because he said, at the end, he's like, "It's the little things, Jimmy."
there was a script that I was doing coverage for, and the script, it had the title like in dialogue, and it was probably about 6-7 times, and that was like my one big criticism. I was like, you got to take this stuff out. One time I'll give you,
You
but
can do
like
it once.
after
give it to you
that, you got to
once.
stop. You got to stop.
Yeah, it could even be like part of a one-liner. It's just when you're dropping it every other sentence, it kind of loses its cool.
Yeah, it's too much. Honestly, like I don't even want to hear it one time, unless it's a word. If it's a word, I understand. But if it's a phrase, I don't want to. I don't want to hear that. Like, don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. If I heard that in the movie, I would kind of roll my eyes a little bit more, But
If you can work that in,
you could probably do it.
I mean, you could, but
Anytime I hear the movie title in the movie, you get that like Leo meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's like, oh, "I got it."
it's just if that's your best dialogue, like if you can come up with a cool phrase to use throughout the movie, I just feel like you can come up with a cool phrase that's different for the title.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I'm not
I
like a
thought.
screenwriter. I haven't written anything ever, so I can't really speak to it. But I almost feel like using the movie title in dialogue is kind of like a crutch.
I mean, I definitely think it is. Here again, they tried like to give it a real reason to be there. Like it makes sense. He's right. It is the little things that get you caught. That is true.
But he wrote the script, and then he was like, "There's my title."
There's my title. Yeah. And you're definitely right. I mean, again, there is a point to it. Again, if he said it one time, it's the little things. I mean, he said it probably every act and like at least once per act. Like I think he said it like at least 4 times.
So if you think he wrote it or he came up with the title after writing the script, what do you think would be a better name for the movie? Hard question.
Me or Scott?
Well,
You
I
don't
watched
want
30
my
minutes of it.
title.
No idea. What is it?
Revise. How about that? I'll
you
keep it simple.
The
I mean,
Jared Leto show.
It needed
Leto
it needed
is
a
what it's called.
rewrite. It needed a rewrite. I mean,
It needed some love. It did. But so that's kind of our take on it. Hunter, do you have anything else for this movie?
I mean, I agree with you. It was entertaining the first time I watched it up until the climax where I got disappointed. But I mean, it's what it is.
It is what it is. And some movies are like that. That's okay. Not every movie can be a winner. I mean, not every movie's great. It's not the worst thing I've ever watched. It's not the best thing I've ever watched. It's not the
winning
best
any
thing I've ever watched
Oscars.
this week. It's not even the best thing I watched this week, but
It's
it happens.
I think there's like these movies that come out every now and then, and they'll go straight to DVD, but we don't really have DVDs that much anymore, right?
Mhm.
Like a lot of people just are kind of skipping that. And I think that this is kind of what that was. I think if this had come out 10 years ago, you would have seen this on the shelf at like a Walmart, and you would have been like, where did this come from? We saw it. I
But it
don't
went
remember
in
this.
theaters. It went in theaters though. Like they released it.
Yeah, that's true. But who went to go see it in theaters?
No, I doubt it.
Do you think you would have had a different thought about the movie if you went and saw it in theaters versus watching it at home?
I would have
No.
liked it less.
I wouldn't have
The-
gone to see it in
'cause
theaters.
exactly. It would have been the
Would have
exact
wasted your money.
situation that almost every movie in theaters is for me, where I go, wow, that trailer looks great. I can't wait to see that. And then I never do. And I think so. I think the almost like disappointment of movies is going to be more prevalent this year for me personally, because as much as I wanted to go to the movies a lot, I just didn't. Like, I'm not spending the money. I got a family. Like, we're just not going to the movies. Now that they're all at home and I'm going to watch probably every one of them that's like also in theaters that day, I just feel like there's going to be a lot more of like, yeah, that was fine. That was okay.
But do you think that you'll feel that way about movies that are going to be good? Like when Godzilla versus Kong comes out, are you going to wish you would have seen it in theaters before watching it at home?
I might see that in theaters. Like,
That's a movie that should be seen in theaters.
yeah, like the ones
Exactly.
that should be seen in theaters, I might actually try and go. Like the big ones. Not the, when I say
Like
big ones,
Matrix.
not the big premieres, but like
I'm sad I probably won't see it in theaters.
the big spectacle movies are the ones I would see in theaters. Like a Kong, like a Dune.
Dune.
Those kinds of things are the ones that I would see in theaters. But other great movies that are coming out, from what we know, like The Black Messiah, which is in 2 weeks, I think. It's not this
February
Friday,
12th.
but it's another Friday. Yeah, February 12th. I don't need to see it in theaters, I don't think. Doesn't seem like a big spectacle movie, but so I don't think it would enhance my viewing to see it in theaters. I'm going to turn off the lights here, throw it on the TV, and be hyped because it sounds like it's phenomenal. So I think that I get what you're saying. There will definitely be both sides of the coin, because again, that's another movie where I'd be like, I can't wait to see that, and then I probably would not have seen it in theaters. But now that it's just right here, absolutely.
Yeah. See, I like think because I watched Wonder Woman 1984 on, was it 1984, came out on Christmas Day. I watched
I
that
did.
one at home, and then I also watched Soul at home. I
Mhm.
feel like I would have enjoyed Soul. I enjoyed Soul a lot, but I think I would have enjoyed it even more if I was saw it in theaters. And then if I had seen Wonder Woman in theaters, I would have been pissed. So I can see what you're saying about the double-edged side.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like double edged. You think Soul would have been enhanced by the theaters?
Oh yes. I mean, I have like a really nice sound bar and like a subwoofer and all that stuff when I watch movies, but nothing beats theater audio. And a movie like Soul, that it's so movie centric and surrounded around jazz. I think even also just the big screen and like being in the movie theater,
It's true.
because I feel like Soul when it came out was more of it was like a cultural moment because it was like one of the first Pixar movies that had black representation. I think just being there in the theater with other people watching it would also have changed my experience of watching it instead of watching it in my living room by myself,
Where's your wife?
asleep.
I think I've seen it twice or like 2.5 times.
Oh wow. I haven't watched
really-
it yet.
I've got a kid, man.
That's
It's
true.
great. It is great.
It's great.
I don't know if it was like a kid. Like I think it was a kid
No.
movie, but it
Yeah.
definitely is way more focused at adults.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like she's not. Well, first of all, she's not understanding anything. She's not even a year old. But even as a 6-year-old, is not going to get the complexities of like heaven and hell, and this is your purpose on earth.
Well, also, if Sophie grows up and is 6 years old and is like, Dad, I want to listen to Duke Ellington, and she can be like, I remember watching Soul when I was like 1 year old.
I'd be
Yeah.
impressed.
You see, like I didn't know anything about the movie. I just knew who was scoring it. So when I saw that, like Atticus and Trent Reznor were scoring it with John Baptiste, I was like, it's gonna probably be a darker movie, like for a Pixar movie. Even though I know it's not gonna be like musically dark,
Well,
but like just for being involved, I kind of figured.
my in-laws and my wife and daughter watched Onward. For we had seen it, but her in-laws, my in-laws had not. They watched Onward last night, and her mom was like, that was pretty dark. Like the whole movie is just like trying to see your dad for the last time. I'm like, yeah, but like really all these animated movies are kind of, they have dark pieces to them. That one, true, the whole movie is about seeing your dad for the last time, but like in Frozen, Olaf says it. He's like, they have their parents, now they're dead. Like, I mean, it's just there's got to be some heartbreak in there somewhere.
That's all. I think I read a conspiracy theory, or isn't really a conspiracy. Maybe it's just a theory about Moana. At the very beginning of Moana, when she's in the storm, the theory is that she dies, and the entire movie is her afterlife, and that like the Rock's character is her guardian angel, getting her to like the afterlife and stuff.
I mean,
And
it could
after
be.
reading that, I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, okay, this totally fits and makes a lot more sense as to why she can talk to a crab underwater.
True. I mean, that's a pretty good point. I mean, it's all very deep and dark, and you got to have a dead parent in a Disney movie. It's a dead parent, a dead sibling, like it has to happen.
But
So
to go back to the like straight to DVD thing, I feel like Onward was that for Disney Plus because
no, it
I
got
watched,
noms though, bro.
but I watched Onward on Disney Plus, and I felt like that was one of those movies that I would have enjoyed way more if I watched it in theaters too.
Yeah, it's got the color and it's a bigger movie. I
Whereas
agree.
Mulan was not.
It didn't have nearly the hype of other, like it didn't have the promotion of other animated movies. And maybe that was because of timing. It came out, I think, right at the start of the pandemic or right in the
Yeah, it
middle
was
of
a
it.
really weird time when it came out.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's obviously a piece of it, and they were probably still figuring it out, but I enjoyed it. I think it was pretty good. But the little things, it was okay. We're gonna talk Golden Globes next week. There were some robberies. Let's just start with that. Sky is not happy. Look at him down there fuming.
Not gonna watch it. I'm just not gonna watch it. It's so messed up. The snubs that happened. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I don't understand what happened. We're seeing people upset now.
Hey,
I
just
think it's
hold
just
it,
gonna
man.
get a little bit more upset as we get there.
Once people were like actually look at them and are like, oh,
It's like The
what about this?
Weeknd being snubbed for his Grammy
I mean,
nomination,
that's so true. That is very
right?
true.
Like,
I'm not saying these people have to win, but they should at least be like on the
Nominated.
card.
yeah. The fact that Zendaya wasn't nominated is just insane. It's insane.
I'm gonna need you to just look up in the meantime, like maybe was that like was that a timing thing? Was that a like submission timing thing? Just in the meantime, maybe we're missing something there.
It's a money thing.
It's a money thing.
Maybe we're missing something there.
Money.
Yeah. That's how it works. They throw parties for the voters, and that's how you get your nominations.
It's the same thing with the Oscars. It's the same thing with any kind of award show, really.
But we're gonna discuss next week. That's
Yeah.
where we're at. Hunter, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I listen to you guys while I clean on Sundays. So anytime I hear y'all's voice, I'm like, oh, gotta go get my broom. So, so this week will be a little weird because I'll
Listen,
hear
as
myself.
long as you're listening, that's what we're looking for. And is there anywhere we can find you or any content that you produce?
I'm not really producing anything at the moment. I have something in the fire, possibly bacon. We're putting in a podcast studio at my office. So I will be starting a podcast.
Can we come
hopefully
record there?
soon. Oh, so we actually are going to have super fancy equipment. So you could just call in.
Maybe
Wow.
There's a phone number you would just call, and I can hit record on your number, and you would be like, you have a microphone.
So you are fancy. Okay.
What is your podcast going to be?
So it's very in the planning stages at the moment. So I work for the Virginia United Methodist Conference. So I oversee like video aspect stuff for like over 1,300 churches, I think.
Oh, wow.
In Virginia. And so I'm going to do something a little bit more faith-based, but it's my idea at the moment, and it's very fresh. So if it changes, don't come listening to this podcast.
I'm gonna
and yell at
come
me
to
later.
you and be like, "This isn't exactly what you said on that
This
one
isn't what you
episode."
pitched in this episode. But so it's a working title, but it's 1,000-question Christian. So I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be like a 30-minute weekly podcast where I'm gonna be asking weird questions to clergy. So I'm gonna kind of base it around different Bible stories that are just don't make any sense as to why they're in the Bible. So like
Yeah.
my first episode, I want to talk about where dinosaurs fit in and where the meteor is supposed to fit into the Bible story because that's scientifically proven. I've seen the dinosaur bones, so we're gonna ask clergy about or pastors about like what happens there,
I'm
and
actually very
then
excited. You
and
told me he
Yeah.
told me about this like 2 hours ago,
yeah,
but
so
like I
so
was like, this sounds like a great idea.
so it'll
No,
be
that
like
sounds awesome.
my first section will be like an agnostic kind of take on like trying to figure out Christianity, and the second one's gonna be more scripture based. So we're gonna talk about the bears killing children,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 verse story about the guy who 6 bears and kills 42 children,
Mm-hmm.
um, the
His
weird
wife's
stuff,
a pastor, if you
weird
couldn't
stuff of
tell.
Revelations. My first episode, we're gonna talk about the talking donkey.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. I'm gonna have clergy on, and we're gonna try to stump them with some like crazy questions. And I don't have any like I grew up in the church, but I don't have any kind of like schooling or anything. So
Yeah.
it's
No,
gonna be it'll be interesting.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely listen because I love podcasts like that. You know, I'm admittedly I'm an atheist,
No
but
problem with that.
I love like the thinking atheist. I love dogma debate. You know, I
Mhm.
grew up Southern Baptist, uh, and now you know, but it's just
I mean, now you look like our Lord and Savior. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you do
yeah.
look a lot like Jesus.
Thanks. Yeah. So I
Well,
mean, you know, I love that kind of stuff. I love reading about like all those. I actually really enjoy reading some of the Bible.
mhm.
So I mean, like, you know, hearing all of those stories, and you know, I think it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, so to prepare for it, the first one of the first pastors I'm going to have on the first episode when we do record it, I was telling her about it. She goes, "Oh, I have this children's book." And so it's called The Awkward Moments in the Bible, and it's a children's book. And when you open it, it is very much not a children's book. It has like the verse, and then it has like an illustration. So like I opened it, and it was talking about communion, and it had like Jesus laid out on the table, and all of his disciples cannibalizing his body.
oh my
And
gosh.
like there's like different stuff about like one of my favorite questions, and one that we'll definitely tackle on this podcast, is what happens between Jesus being born and him being 30 years old.
It's a
Yeah.
good question.
Where were
So
those years,
He
right?
just pops up as like 33, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. What?
so
I get that.
it'll be
Yeah.
very interesting. I'm excited to get it
What
going once we
I
get it.
have to ask you, because I didn't ask you earlier, what does your pastor wife think of this idea of questioning?
Yeah, I was
I,
about to
I don't know
ask
if
that
it's a
too.
questioning of faith, but it's a just questioning, some of the, like you said,
I
the other things.
she she approves. She thinks it's cool. I think I'm gonna hopefully have her on the podcast. Because I mean, I'm not
I mean,
gonna
she
I
should be
don't
your first guest, in all
no.
honesty.
He said, "No, I need some warm ups."
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to stay married.
I need to create a format before I do that. No, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm not going to look at it as like questioning faith. I'm looking at it
Yeah,
as
that's not. Yeah,
like a
An
someone
analysis.
someone
shoring up some answers. I think.
yeah. So someone who is like atheist or agnostic, maybe on the fence, can be like, oh yeah, I never like I've always wanted to ask my pastor,
Hmm.
but like pastors sometimes can be very intimidating and not like you don't just go up to a pastor and be like, I'm going to question everything about your
You see him for an
job.
hour on Sunday. They're telling you how it is, and then you go on about your day.
So,
Yeah, there's not a lot of that.
so Sky, if you ever have any questions you want to ask a pastor, send it to me and I will put it on the podcast.
I got questions. I got questions. That'll be great.
Just get my email
Perfect.
from Jansen.
Yeah,
I will.
perfect. Hunter,
I will.
seriously, we appreciate you coming on. I had a
Oh, no
great
problem.
time. I like this kind of shorter format where we just kind of discuss maybe one thing a little bit more in depth. So this has been a good time.
Yeah.
And we will, well, first of all, we'd love if you would like, rate, or subscribe. I'm sure Hunter's already done those things.
Oh, yeah.
We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So we're on all the socials.
But not Twitch.
We're not on Twitch. Are you on Twitch?
I'm not on Twitch. No.
Well, well, okay.
But
What a
Jansen's
random.
on TikTok apparently. So
No.
I'm
he's
not on
not, remember?
TikTok. I'd
Oh, you're
like.
not.
I told you I can't be on there, man. I would lose my whole day. But my friends send me good TikToks, so that
Okay.
way they filter it out for me. It's great. We're not on TikTok. I don't know what we would post, but we are on those other places, and we will see you guys next week when we're talking Golden Globes.